I became a doctor to help people heal. Now I'm using the same science and medicine to take on true crime. A reality TV family in free fall. Former 19 Kids and Counting star Josh Duggar is just weeks away from trial for child pornography charges. Now the tight-knit Duggar clan is said to be splintered by these horrifying accusations. Today, a former member of a religious organization linked to the Duggars is here revealing why she claims the group is a cult and may have enabled Josh's alleged crimes. But first, our show investigative correspondent Maros Campo has the very latest.
Shocking new allegations against disgraced reality TV star Josh Duggar. Just days after his wife Anna announced their 7th pregnancy, the 33-year-old was arrested in Arkansas. Prosecutors claim they discovered more than 200 pornographic images of children on his computers, some allegedly depicting toddlers as young as 18 months old being sexually abused. Josh is the oldest son of Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar, whose enormous brood was featured on one of TLC's top-rated shows, 19 Kids and Counting. And at the height of their popularity,
please welcome the Duggars!
The entire family even appeared on this show.
In one word, what is the best part about living in a big family?
It's very, very special.
Close-knit.
But just 2 years later, in 2015, the family's first shocking controversy. A disturbing police report surfaced from nearly a decade earlier. It claimed that Josh, then a teen, had molested 5 underage girls, including 4 of his sisters. He apologized in a Facebook post, but no charges were ever filed against him, and the statute of limitations had expired. That same year, the staunch family values advocate was outed as a customer of the notorious cheating website Ashley Madison and publicly apologized for being unfaithful to his wife. Josh is out on bail but must wear an ankle monitor and live with third-party custodians. He has pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of possessing and receiving pornography and faces up to 40 years in prison if convicted.
Maros Campo and our show legal contributor Joy Jackson joined us now with the inside details on this disturbing case. First of all, what are federal investigators saying is going on? What are the accusations against Josh Duggar?
Yeah, one agent who examined the files on Duggar's computer said that he's been doing this kind of work for 11 years, and he says he's viewed thousands of images of child pornography, and he says that what he saw on Josh Duggar's computer was, quote, the worst of the worst. He says that he saw hundreds of sexually explicit images, including some with children as young as 18 months old, just babies.
So prosecutors say this photo taken of Josh's hands match images found on his seized computer, but his lawyers unsuccessfully attempted to have the picture stricken from evidence, saying it was illegally obtained. Joy, was that the right decision or not?
Yeah, you know what? To the point about whether it was a legally sound decision, it was. Why? Because in the event that a defendant consents, that is, the police want to take a photo, you say, sure, take it. That's consent. It's admissible. The other issue is that you don't have a reasonable expectation of privacy if your hands are out there and someone's photographing them. And so on that basis, hard loss for the defense, but a proper decision by the judge.
Now, the authorities say they found the child pornography on Duggar's work computer. So his attorneys have raised the possibility that someone else accessed the illegal images. It's possible, right? But the prosecutors are claiming that the same password that Josh used for his bank account, his utilities, and his family Instagram was used to access the child pornography on this work computer. So, Joy, if that's proven to be true, how damning is that?
So it's extraordinarily damning, because here's always the argument. It's not enough to establish that they went, for example, to your work, your home, and got a computer, and there were things on the computer that were unlawful. You have to make the connection, right, between the computer and the person who allegedly is using that computer. You go to someone's work, and in the event that you get it, the police, right, you'll say, well, it could have been a coworker, could have been many coworkers, could have been someone else who accessed it, could have been a client. When you start, and you mentioned it, matching passwords with respect to Instagram, with regard to utilities, with regard to what you use, now it makes it you. And so that's damning when jurors hear that, if it gets that far.
All right, so these current charges against Josh are bringing renewed attention to the shocking allegations that came out against him in 2015, when news broke that Josh had been investigated for allegedly sexually abusing 4 of his sisters and a family friend back when he was in his mid-teens. I mean, this is... The story keeps building here. What these the results of that investigation bring everyone up to date.
Yeah, so in 2015, media outlets obtained a copy of a police report from 2006. Now, that included statements from Jim Duggar, the patriarch, and he said that he first learned of these allegations in 2002, and that it included allegations that Josh had molested 4 of his sisters while they were sleeping. So Jim Bob did not contact the authorities. He contacted church elders first, then he sent Josh away for a few months, and then he had a state trooper intervene and tried to give him a talking to. Incidentally, that state trooper was also then sentenced to 56 years for child pornography.
Oh my goodness.
So when these allegations became public, 2 of Josh's sisters came forward, confirmed that they were accurate, and Josh posted an apology on Facebook saying that he, quote, acted inexcusably. So he was acknowledging at least some of what was accused.
My goodness. So later in 2015, Josh also admitted to cheating on his wife, Anna, and said he had an addiction to internet pornography. This was that Ashley Madison revealing data dump. All these people were using this site to have illicit relationships. So Joe, he was never criminally charged for this, but could these allegations from earlier years be brought up in the current trial?
Without question, right? So the extent to which you can use, the amount of things you can use is always dependent upon a judge, right? Judges make rulings with regard to what is relevant, with regard to what is too overly prejudicial, a legal term to say, hey, too damning. But what they call them are prior bad acts. And prior bad acts, although not charged, can be used by prosecutors to evidence a pattern of similar behavior.
After these new child pornography charges came out against Josh, the New York Post published an article in which several people claimed the Duggar family is part of a cult. The Duggars have been linked to 2 organizations created by a man named Bill Gothard. One of them is called the Institute in Basic Life Principles, and the other is called the Advanced Training Institute. Mara, educate us. Who's Bill Gothard? What are these organizations?
Yeah, so the IBLP is a fundamentalist sect of Christianity that Gothard founded that the Duggars are believed to be part of. Their children, the Duggar children, were homeschooled using the organization's faith-based curriculum. That's the Advanced Training Institute. So what we know is that there's a possible connection here between the two. Now, former members of this organization say that it is a cult, that it enables sexual abuse, some of them, and that they had to go through things. Victims of sexual abuse allegedly had to explain how they tempted their abuser, that they were held responsible for the abuse, and that they were discouraged from contacting authorities. Now, what's interesting is that Gothard ran the facility that Josh was sent to for treatment, and in 2014, Gothard himself had to step down because of sexual abuse allegations, though he denies them.
Thank you both for being here. Coming up, a former member of that exact organization is here, exposing what she says went on behind closed doors and what it could reveal about Josh Duggar. The shocking child pornography charges against former reality star Josh Duggar have led to increased scrutiny of the 19 kids and counting family. For years, the Duggars were involved with a religious homeschooling program called the Advanced Training Institute, or ATI for short. Heather Heath is a former member who says her parents began teaching her with the ATI curriculum when she was 9 years of age, but she now calls the group a cult. She's also the author of the upcoming book, Lovingly Abused, and she joins us now. Heather, I know this is tough to discuss. I appreciate you coming forward to help a lot of people understand what's going down. How was the Duggar family viewed within ATI?
Within ATI, they were ATI famous. They were what you would strive to be. I mean, when I first saw them speak and teach the training sessions, I think that was back when they only had 11 kids. But I remember Michelle was on the mothers panels. I mean, my mother talking about it. She was on the panel where a bunch of mothers would sit in a row and basically train you how to run a family, how to homeschool, and what your family life should look like. So she was what you would strive to be.
So in 2015, the world was shocked to learn of the incest allegations against Josh Duggar. Now, you spent a semester at an ATI training center when you were 17. Was incest or sexual abuse ever discussed during that program?
It was. So the girls and the boys were separate, and every morning we would have what's called a wisdom search, where you would study the Bible and then share your rhemas and insights, what passage you read. And during one of them, they had us all kind of sitting around in a circle, and they wanted us to confess if we had been sexually abused or anything like that. They wanted us to confess what we did that brought that on to us. Like if we were wearing something that was too tight, or if we had, pajamas that we outgrew, or if we walked from the bathroom to her room after taking a shower and forgot to bring clothes and, we're just in a towel. That was a temptation, possibly for brothers. And they wanted everybody to say what they did and how they had a part in it. And I don't have a brother, but I mentioned that was not their fault. Anything that had happened to them was not their fault. And they basically told me that I just didn't understand because I don't have a brother. And then they sent me to my room for a heart check, which is basically a grown-up timeout, and locked me in my room to read my Bible until I came to the realization that they were correct and that I would stop trying to promote these worldly ideas that women didn't bring sexual assault on themselves, that it wasn't their fault.
You've compared it to The Handmaid's Tale, which, as you describe it...
I did. I watched a couple episodes of that, and I had to stop because there's a scene where they're sitting around in a circle and they had to confess why they had been raped or abused, and that was way too much, just like being at the training center. That was pretty much what we had to do. And I was at the most lenient of the training centers, which is the opinion of most ATI kids, that I was the most lenient one.
We now know that Josh Duggar was investigated for allegedly abusing 4 of his sisters and another girl as well when he was in his mid-teens. And as an adult, he admitted to cheating on his wife and having a pornography addiction. He's now facing these child pornography charges. Heather, you say the things that he was taught growing up may have contributed to what's happened in his life. How so?
I obviously can't speak for him, but most of what they taught us was that if anything bad happens, like if somebody was sexually assaulted or touched, it was all to the glory of God, and you should forgive the assailant. And the assailant is just a tool that God is using to bring you spiritual power. And we were discouraged from going to the police. You were supposed to go to your church, or you were supposed to go to Bill Gothard or one of these training centers, but not the police, because they wouldn't understand, and they counseled using worldly methods and not biblical methods. So I don't know what he saw growing up. I didn't grow up near him, but in the program, that's what we saw. It's just people just get away with it.
Coming up, my last conversation with Josh Duggar and Heather's message for his wife, Anna. I'm back getting insights on Josh Duggar and the Duggar family from author Heather Heath. So I want to show you something for the audience at home. When Josh and the rest of his immediate family were here on my show back in 2013, his wife Anna was pregnant with their 3rd child. Now, to be clear, this was 2 years before any allegations of sexual abuse against him had come to light. So it was a very different conversation than we would have today. Take a look. Let me start off with, if I can, congratulations. You're about to have another grandchild. So, Josh, Anna, when are you expecting?
We are due June 7th.
June 7th. You know, I got this. Congratulations. So I noticed you're naming your kids. Notice that they were all J's in the Duggars. But Josh, you're naming your kids with M's.
That's right.
And you may not have noticed this. My first name is Mehmet.
That's right. Well, we might have to consider that.
You know, it seems so innocent. I gotta say, knowing what Josh has been accused of in the years since that interview, it's very hard to see him act like a loving family man. So, Heather, what's your reaction to how Josh and his family were portrayed on TV at the height of their fame?
Personally, I feel like they're a distraction, and a lot of my friends who have left ATI also feel that. I mean, he is in the spotlight because his family was already famous, but this happens so much within ATI, and he's the one who just got the attention for it. I think he was portrayed as this nice, loving family man who got forgiven, and, you know, Anna forgave him, but he was the only one who got called out on it. You know, all these happy young people, you know, smiling and joyful all the time because mental health isn't a thing, and if you're sad, you know, it's the devil. So I think that they prey on people who have had other traumatic backgrounds, and that's how they get new members, because they're still getting new members. It's just a poor retention rate for second generation.
So is that why the Duggars were always so cheerful? Because it was reflection on them if they weren't?
I mean, obviously I can't speak for them, but probably. You were supposed to be smiling and joyful all the time. Happiness was not a thing to strive for. Joy was a thing to strive for. So no matter what was happening, you could be joyful in that situation because you have the joy of the Lord. So if you were depressed, it was from the devil. Pretty much everything that happened was the devil's fault if you weren't joyful.
I gotta say, after Josh was arrested, People magazine reported that Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar's daughter, Jill, has not seen her parents in over 2 years because she wanted, I'm gonna quote her, more control in her life. Are you surprised the family is starting to splinter in this way?
I'm not, because depending on how strict you are in the fundamentalist world, you could be shunned. Sometimes the church will, ATI is not a church, but sometimes specific churches will say, if you talk to your kid, you're going to lose your position in this church. So sometimes they'll have to decide between their child or their church and the position that they hold.
Many people were shocked after Josh's most recent court hearing when his wife Anna walked out with him smiling. She just gave birth to their 7th child. Why do you think, Heather, that Anna continues to support him after everything he's been accused of?
Obviously, I can't speak for her. I have no idea what's going through her head, and I imagine that it's absolute torment right now. But in ATI, they teach you that you are to obey your husband and stand by your husband no matter what. If he does something illegal or commits adultery or some major crime, because staying with your husband or your authority gets you just ultimate recognition of how faithful you are and what a strong, submissive wife you are, and you're going to stand by him no matter what. So it's put on a pedestal. Her staying with him, if she wants to do that, that's up to her, but it is revered in ATI.
I want you to be honest, Heather, now, and give a message to Anna. If she sees this interview, what would that be?
Okay, well, I mean, I was also honest the whole time.
No, I know you were. I'm just, be blunt. Honest is the wrong word. Be blunt. What should she hear from you?
I don't know what I would say to her. I mean, she's got the whole world looking at her right now, and that's so much pressure. But I think if she wants to stay and she wants to stick by him, then that's up to her, and people should just leave her alone about it. And as long as no one else is getting hurt, and I don't know what the situation is with their kids. I have no idea. That is not for me to reference, but I wish her the best, and I'm sorry this is happening to her, and I hope that she's doing what's right for her.
Well, Heather, I applaud you for scaling the wall and achieving your goals. Heather's book, I should point out, she mentioned it briefly, it's called Lovingly Abused. It's available for pre-order right now. You can find out more information at heathergraceheath.com. You see the link there. We reached out to the Institute in Basic Life Principles and the Advanced Training Institute for comment, have not heard back at the time of this taping. Josh Duggar has pleaded not guilty to the charges he's facing, and his lawyers have said that they intend to defend this case aggressively and thoroughly. Heather, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back. Up next.